We're all looking for the Holy Grail, that one chord progression which is so interesting and unique that it will make everyone want to listen to your song. But if you've looked long enough, you'll know that like the Holy Grail, this doesn't exist. So it's time for a different approach. What if you use some of the most common, tired progressions and breathe new life into them? Well, in this video, I'm going to do just that. I'll introduce you to my secret weapon, the augmented chord. I'll also reveal 5 popular progressions and show you how to deploy the augmented chord to transform these familiar sequences. To begin, let's meet the augmented chord. Augmented chords are written in notation with a plus symbol next to the chord letter. You may also see them written with aug or sharp 5. Augmented chords are really simple to construct. You take a major chord and raise the 5th note by half a step or semitone. This note is also known as an augmented 5th, giving the chord its name. For example, the C major chord has the notes C, E and G. Therefore, C augmented contains the notes C, E and G sharp. You can hear the unstable and odd sounds that augmented chords have. They are neither major nor minor and have a strange awkwardness. Because of this, they are most often used as passing chords, leading the listener somewhere else. They do not occur naturally in diatonic major or minor keys. As such, they are rarely found in classical music and not common in pop and rock. However, you are more likely to come across them in jazz. An interesting feature of the augmented chords is that they cannot be inverted. Inverting a major chord involves playing the 3rd or 5th note as the lowest note or root note instead of the 1st note. If you take the C augmented chord you heard earlier, with the notes C, E and G sharp, you can attempt 2 inversions. With E as the lowest note, you get E, G sharp and C. This is an E augmented chord. If you use G sharp as the lowest note, you get G sharp, C and E, which is a G sharp augmented chord. So there are actually only 4 sets of notes that create augmented chords. These notes are always 2 whole steps or 4 half steps apart from one another. This symmetry defines the augmented chord. It is also worth knowing that minor chords cannot have an augmented or sharp 5th. They simply become major chord first inversions. For example, C minor has the notes C, E flat and G. If you raise the 5th by a semitone, you get C, E flat and A flat. This is a first inversion A flat major chord. If you understand the augmented chord, then you can begin to alter your chord progressions to add tension and interest. But where can you find these popular chord progressions? I've created a free guide just for you with 6 popular progressions in it. If you go to majorkeychords.com, then you can download your free copy today. Link is also in the description. Let's start with the first progression on the list. This is arguably the most popular major key chord progression, 1, 5, 6, 4. But it's also become a bit of a joke and cliche, as the Axis of Awesome video demonstrated, because it is used in a huge amount of songs. So let's deploy the augmented chord to breathe some new life into it. In major keys, if you play the 5 chord as an augmented chord, then it generates a bluesy tension, which can be pleasing. This is because the sharp 5th augmented note from the chord is the flat 3rd note in the relevant scale, which introduces the key blue note from the major blues scale. You could try this out in a 12-bar blues progression. Here it is in the 1, 5, 6, 4, sharing a bar with the standard 5 chord. This is in the key of C major with the chords C major, G augmented, A minor and F major. Augmented chords roll as passing chords means that they are often played for short durations like this. Look at the voice-led top note that this augmented chord plays a part in, rising up by half a step each time. This includes the blues scale note I discussed. Next on the list is the progression 1, 4, 2, 5. I'll move over to the guitar to change up this progression. Arguably the most common use of augmented chords you'll come across is playing the 1 tonic chord as an augmented chord. The goal here is to again create a nice voice leading line. In this case, moving from the 5th note in the 1 chord to the sharp 5th in 1 augmented to a chord that contains the 6th note of the scale. In this C major key example, the 4 chord F major contains the 6th note from the scale, which is A. So the rising line goes from G to G sharp to A. You can see it here, going from the open G note to G sharp on the 1st fret and then A on the 2nd fret. Let's now move to the progression 1, 3, 6, 5. On the face of it, this progression isn't as suitable for the use of an augmented chord, particularly as the 3 chord lacks the 6th note to resolve to after the 1 augmented. But if you play it as a sus4 chord, then this 6th note is introduced and allows you to produce the half-step voice leading that augmented chords love. Here's how that sounds in the key of C major. Moving down the list a little and you get to a non-diatonic example, 1 flat 7 4 5. The flat 7 chord is a borrowed chord from the parallel Dorian, Mixolydian and Aeolian keys. It is a common chord to use in major key progressions that can bring some unexpected toughness. It introduces the flat 7 note as the root note, which is from outside of the key, but it can play an interesting role in the augmented chord voice leading ideas I've been demonstrating. So far I've been hunting for chords with the 6th scale note in them to follow the augmented 1 chord. But what if you can't find or think of a suitable chord? Well, a useful and interesting idea is to stay on the 1 chord, but play the major 6th version of the chord. The 1 major 6th chord adds the 6th scale note to the major triad. In this case, it completes the rising voice-led idea I've been demonstrating with the 1-to-1 augmented chords. This then leads nicely onto the flat 7 chord as a natural extension of this. So in the key of C major, you would move from C major to C augmented to C major 6th and finally B flat major. This creates the rising line G, A flat, A, B flat. Here's how that sounds. You can also use augmented chords in minor keys. This takes you beyond the major key chord guide, but is still useful and simple to understand. The most common approach here is sometimes found in classical music. It involves using the augmented major 5 chord again, this time as a way to resolve to the minor 1 chord. Using the standard major 5 chord is a really common way to resolve minor key progressions. For example, in the key of C minor, this would involve playing the G major chord before the C minor chord. This means that both chords share a G note, and then the other 2 notes only have to move by half a step, creating the pleasing resolution. If you play the 5 augmented chord, then the 5th note is raised half a step. In this example, this note is now E flat. Now both chords share 2 notes in common, leaving just the leading note or tone B to resolve up to the tonic C. This provides a really satisfying resolution. I'll play the progression first with the major 5, then with the augmented 5, so you can appreciate the difference. I have to admit at this point that you might have just wasted your time. The thing is, everything I just told you is completely useless if you don't know how to create chord progressions. Watch the video on screen next to learn a really simple chord progression system.